What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a lore video about Deathknights in the Divinity universe. So, a couple of things right off the bat. Deathknights throughout this series are displayed very differently game to game. They are in 3 of the 6 Divinity games, and in every one of those games they are represented very differently in the lore. That's a pretty common thing with the Divinity games at this point, because they weren't really expecting to be able to make many past the first one, and then it kind of turned into a whole thing, and now here we are with Divinity Original Sin 2. In a lot of places, the lore doesn't exactly line up, and this is one of those. So rather than try to make any of it make sense, because A, I'm not their writer, and B, they could very well find a way to rope all this together and make it make sense. I'm just going to show you guys kind of Deathknights throughout the series and kind of what that looked like. In the very first game, Divine Divinity, Deathknights are shown as kind of foot soldiers for the demonic hordes. Now, this gave rise to the thought that perhaps Deathknights are some sort of humanoid demon, and that part actually carried over into the next game. However, before we get into that, in Divine Divinity, in addition to being like the main foot soldiers of the Black Ring's demon army here, they are also very intelligent, and that's important for reasons we'll get into in a little bit. These aren't like mindless zombie soldiers. They are thinking, sentient creatures at the very least. Beyond just being a base enemy type, they don't really serve too much of a purpose in Divine Divinity. They're in like one kind of important cutscene, but that's about it. And then we move on to their portrayal in the second game, Beyond Divinity. Now in this game, again, spoilers if you didn't read the message on the first part, we actually travel with a Death Knight through most of it. However, this turns out to be false, because that Death Knight turns out to actually be Damien, the Damned One. However, despite not traveling with an actual Death Knight, we can learn quite a few things about Death Knights as we make our way through Nemesis. Chief among those, in Beyond Divinity, they actually kind of went all in on the Death Knights are just a form of humanoid demon approach, because that's what they are in Beyond Divinity. While they are intelligent, they are not granted so much of their own free will, so to speak. So, typically speaking, Death Knights are bound to servitude to other masters. So you don't really find them out just like out and about, hanging out on their own. They're usually in service to something much larger than themselves, that being a demon lord or a witch or something like that. And that brings us to the last time we saw them in-game. They are mentioned here and there in a couple other games, but the most recent actual physical appearance of them in-game is in Divinity Original Sin 1, in which they serve as more golems than anything else. So when we breach the Tenebria mines, we find out that Leandra, the antagonist, has actually been creating them out of source magic and tenebrium, a type of metal. And in this game, they very clearly aren't demons of any sort. They're just like walking armor almost. So very much so more of a construct approach. And moreover, we actually find out that the Death Knights Leandra was able to make are actually improvements on none other than Brachus Rex's designs, who she found. So that's kind of where I want to talk about the lore inconsistencies here. Again, I'm not trying to make sense, I'm just pointing out the parts that don't add up. Divine Divinity and Beyond Divinity are set like roughly 1200 years after Divinity Original Sin. So we know in that timeline there's some sort of like humanoid demon, because that's what the games tell us. But then 1200 years prior to this, apparently Death Knights were like walking armor golems that some dude made. So again, there's plenty of ways to write that to make sense, or just not bother to explain it at all and just let people's headcanon be what it will be. But again, just kind of pointing out some of the unexplained parts of the lore. Alrighty guys, there you are. There is a look at the Death Knights throughout the Divinity series. A pretty cool concept in all of its iterations, honestly, and it's something I hope they bring back if they ever make a sequel, like say Fallen Heroes or something, because Fallen Heroes will feature the Black Ring pretty prominently, and seeing how these creatures have served the Black Ring in the past, I certainly hope that they, again, bring this back. There you go, guys. Hope you liked the video. Hope you like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.